I remember the exact moment the phone buzzed and the words appeared. "Hey Jake, just a heads up. Big family reunion next month at Sea Glass Point. Hope you're well." No invitation attached, no follow-up details, and certainly no space left for me in the annual group photo. It felt like the echo of every childhood Thanksgiving when my cousins got the drumsticks and I got the cold stuffing. I stared at the text, heat buzzing behind my eyes, and thought, even after everything I've built, I'm still the outsider. But heartbreak has a taste you never quite forget, and that one message brought it flooding back. The Montclairs are nothing if not consistent. Uncle Richard's booming laugh, Aunt Linda's delicate hand on a crystal flute, and the unspoken rule that success only counts if it's measured by their yardsticks. So when their group chat crackled to life with plans for an extravagant reunion, reserved suites, private beach dinners, yacht charters, and my name wasn't on the guest list, all those old insecurities clawed up my throat. If you've ever felt your stomach drop at a family slight, wondering why blood runs colder than strangers' handshakes, you know the ache. I was the cousin they patted on the head at funerals, the nephew they forgot to tag in pictures, and I convinced myself I was fine with that. Until now. If you've ever experienced something like this, please hit like and subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. My name's Jake Montclair. I'm 34, and for the past 9 years I've poured every ounce of sweat and insomnia into transforming a bankrupt coastal motel into Arbor Reef Resort, a hidden slice of heaven tucked between whispering palms and turquoise water. I bought it under an LLC, kept the owner's name off the brochures, and let the place tell its own story. Private bungalows raised on stilts, hammocks swaying above phosphorescent tides, a staff paid fair wages and treated like family. Everything I wish the Montclairs had been to me. Mom always said I was sensitive, Dad called me independent, but the truth was simpler. I was lonely. Growing up, I watched cousins Ethan and Trevor compare Ivy League acceptances while Grandma doted on them like golden retrievers. Meanwhile, I nursed straight B report cards, tinkered with surfboards, and dreamed of building something that couldn't be taken away. The day I signed the deed to that crumbling motel, the bank manager shook my hand with polite pity. "You sure about this, son?" And I walked out feeling lighter than I ever had. First came the leaks in the thatched roofs, rain drumming on my pillow while I patched holes at 3 a.m. Then the hurricane that turned our makeshift pier to matchsticks. I slept in the supply closet, sewed curtains till my thumbs blistered, and served shrimp tacos to honeymooners with salt water crusting my hair. And yet every sunrise over Arbor Reef painted the sky sherbet pink, and I tasted the life I'd imagined as a child. A life where belonging wasn't conditional. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've ever felt underestimated. Your support is proof we're more than other people's expectations. So when that reunion text arrived, I stood on the veranda of my paradise, phone vibrating like a wasp in my palm, and nearly deleted it. But old hurts linger. I pictured Ethan toasting champagne over some sterile ballroom buffet, Trevor bragging about mergers, Aunt Linda complimenting the concierge on his tie. I tasted the metallic tang of being forgotten. And then, almost involuntarily, I smiled. Because Sea Glass Point Resort, their chosen venue, had quietly changed ownership 3 months earlier. A private sale, no press release. And the buyer? Arbor Reef Holdings, LLC. I owned the resort hosting my family reunion. They just didn't know it yet. That realization unfurled inside me like a slow-burn firework. I could decline the invite that never came. I could let them arrive, sign their credit card slips, and spend a weekend praising the visionary owner without ever learning my name. But something inside, the boy who'd sat at the kids' table until he was 20, wanted more than silent revenge. I wanted acknowledgement. And maybe, just maybe, reconciliation. If this part hit you hard, leave a comment and tell me what you would have done. Would you stay anonymous or step into the spotlight? I was 25, fresh out of community college with a marketing certificate, when I scraped together savings to fly to Cousin Rachel's wine country wedding. At the rehearsal dinner, I offered to design a free website for her boutique. Uncle Richard clinked a glass for silence and announced, "Jake's got a new hobby, web doodling." Everyone laughed. The next day, I learned they'd hired a real firm, run by Ethan's fraternity brother. On the return flight, I scribbled Arbor Reef in a napkin margin and vowed my future would never depend on their approval again. 1 week before the reunion, I video conferenced the Sea Glass managers. Hi, I'm Jacob Bennett, owner representative. We have a VIP group arriving, the Montclair family. Front desk supervisor Maya raised an eyebrow. Any special instructions? Just this, I said, heartbeat thudding. No mention of ownership until I arrive. I'll check in under a standard guest profile. She grinned. Understood. Let's give them the 5-star treatment. Inside, fear wrestled thrill. Was this petty? Possibly. Cathartic? Absolutely. I booked the penthouse suite under J. Bennett, my mother's maiden name, then called Mom. Sweetheart, she said, cautious. They assumed you were busy. Mom, I wasn't invited. Silence rustled like dry leaves. Maybe you could still join? Surprise them. I pictured her twisting the phone cord, torn between eldest child loyalty and maternal ache. I'll think about it, I promised, kissing the receiver the way she used to kiss my scraped knees. Seaglass Point's driveway curls through mangrove arches before widening into a terracotta courtyard. I arrived early, baseball cap low, luggage rolling behind me. The salt breeze smelled like home. Staff lined the lobby with hibiscus water and cool towels. I thanked them quietly, signed the register, and took the elevator to the penthouse. Below, SUVs spilled Montclairs in linen and pearls. Laughter bounced off marble, bellmen gathered suitcases, and I watched unseen from my balcony. Ethan tipped a valet with the flourish of someone who's never calculated interest on a credit card. Trevor FaceTimed his hedge fund partner, panning the camera to show the infinity pool. Aunt Linda fussed with a sun hat, and Uncle Richard asked the concierge about scotch. Yet by evening, rumors began to flicker like candle flames. Someone had noticed plaques in the hallways, dedicated to the visionary J. Bennett. Another spotted a framed letter in the library about Arbor Reef Holdings' mission to foster inclusive luxury. The reunion banquet unfolded under lanterns strung between palm trunks. A long table glimmered with silverware, menus embossed in gold. I slipped into a seat at the far end, back straight, heartbeat booming. Mom's eyes widened when she saw me, but I pressed a finger to my lips. Cousin Rachel raised a glass. To family, prosperity, and togetherness. A ripple of toasts. I caught snippets. Trevor's fund killed it this quarter. Ethan's firm acquired a startup. Aunt Linda curated a museum gala. The usual. Then the general manager approached, clearing his throat. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for choosing Seaglass Point. Our owner sends his deepest gratitude and a complimentary upgrade to the penthouse for the Montclair matriarch and patriarch. Whispers sparked. Grandpa Montclair adjusted his hearing aid. Owner? Thought this place was corporate. Ethan frowned. Who is the owner? The manager glanced at me. Our silent cue. I rose, napkin sliding to the sand. I am. You could hear the ocean exhale. Mom gasped. Uncle Richard's scotch hit the tablecloth. Ethan blinked like a camera flash. Jake, Aunt Linda managed. You bought Seaglass? I met their eyes one by one. Technically Arbor Reef Holdings bought it. I founded Arbor Reef. Silence. 10 years of web doodling. Turned out okay. If this story moved you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Dinner dissolved into fragments. Grandpa's trembling hand reaching for mine. Ethan's forced congratulations. Trevor's tight smile like a crack in porcelain. I fielded questions, renovation budgets, occupancy rates, environmental impact, while dessert melted untouched. For once, I held the talking stick. Later, on the moonlit pier, Mom hugged me hard. I'm sorry, she whispered. We should have seen you. I swallowed a knot. I never stopped wanting to be seen. Footsteps scuffed the planks. Uncle Richard approached, shoulders slumped. Son, he said, voice thick. I judged worth by headlines and Ivy League seals. You showed me character means more. Tears pricked my lashes. The surf hissed. We stared out where water kissed sky. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from if this felt familiar. The next morning, I hosted a sunrise yoga session on the beach. Cousins who'd once ignored my LinkedIn requests breathed beside me, palms open to coral pink light. Over grilled pineapple breakfast, Grandpa asked me to teach him the resort app. Aunt Linda offered art pieces for the lobby. They still boasted, still compared wine vintages, but now their laughter included me. I don't kid myself. One weekend can't rewrite decades. But as the family photo clicked on the final day, me centered between Mom and Grandpa, arms slung over shoulders, I felt something loosen inside. Not validation from them, but acceptance of myself. I built Arbor Reef to prove I belonged somewhere. Turns out, I only needed to invite myself home. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've ever felt underestimated. Your story isn't over. You're just not at the penthouse reveal yet. The tide rolled in, erasing footprints, but the moment stayed. Forgiveness in the salt air, possibility in each wave. And as their convoy disappeared down the Palm Line Drive, I walked back toward the lobby, toward staff who'd become my true family, toward the vision I'd carved from loneliness, and knew that the boy at the kids' table had finally stood up, walked across the room, and taken his seat. I wish I could say the story ended right there on the veranda, wrapped in a neat bow of forgiveness and ocean-scented peace. But life, especially Montclair life, rarely grants endings that tidy. In the weeks after the reunion, the resort's tide pool of calm started to ripple with new undercurrents, some gentle, some riptides threatening to drag me back into old hurt. The Monday after everyone left, I stood at the lobby's driftwood desk signing off on payroll when Maya, our front desk supervisor, hurried over with her tablet. "Jake, sorry, Mr. Bennett, there's a call in conference room B. They insisted on speaking to the owner, and they definitely know it's you." I followed her through the breezeway, heart thrumming. On the screen waited Ethan, Trevor, and Uncle Richard in a three-way video chat. Their faces hovered like ghosts against the backdrop of mahogany bookshelves. Uncle Richard went first. "Jake, we've been talking. That weekend opened our eyes. We'd like to discuss partnership opportunities." I leaned back, letting the chair creak. Partnership, a word that once would have made me sprint for approval, now felt like a pebble tossed into a wide lagoon. I inhaled sea salt and patience. "Tell me more," I said, voice measured. Ethan cleared his throat. "We have capital. You have vision. We could create a portfolio, Arbor Reef sister properties, combine resources." Inside, a younger version of me leapt at the prospect of being taken seriously. But an even older version whispered caution. Forgiveness doesn't erase patterns, it reveals them. If this turning point resonates, drop a comment and share what you would have done next. Would you trust them or walk away? A week later they arrived, again, but this time in Armani suits instead of linen resort wear. We met in the penthouse lounge. Trevor brought slides predicting market capture and synergy. Ethan outlined a loyalty program. Uncle Richard, to his credit, mostly listened. The numbers looked sensible on paper, yet every chart shimmered with the promise of control, board seats, voting shares, performance clauses. I thumbed through the proposal, remembering Grandma's cracked voice praising Ethan for thinking like a Montclair. Was I ready to merge my hard-won independence with the very hierarchy I'd outgrown? I asked for one night to think. That evening, a tropical depression lurked offshore, wind combing the palms into nervous shapes. I walked the boardwalk alone, each plank creaking like a question. Can trust rebuild on profit margins? The moonlit tide hissed. Memories surged. 10-year-old Jake skating across an icy driveway at Thanksgiving, carrying a tray of pumpkin pies, slipping in front of the cousin's laughter. 16-year-old Jake opening a college rejection email while Ethan announced his Harvard acceptance. Older wounds whispered under the present promise. I sat on the end of the pier, toes almost brushing black water. My phone buzzed, a message from Maya. "Jake, staff meeting at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Also, wanderers from room 214 just said the Montclairs were asking for occupancy numbers. Thought you should know. They were digging already." I pocketed the phone and stared at the water's dark mirror. Trust, once cracked, never gleams the same. It refracts every light. If this part hit you hard, leave a comment and tell me what you would have done in my place. Sign the deal or stand my ground. By dawn, rain slashed the veranda. Palm fronds clacked like restless drums. In the conference room, I found Uncle Richard alone, watching storm bands roll across the horizon. "I used to hate storms," he said softly. "Reminded me how small we are." I poured 2 coffees. "And now, they remind me to look at what's worth protecting." He swiveled to face me. "Jake, I know we weren't there for you. This partnership isn't about us owning you. It's about us investing in what you built." His eyes were tired, honest. I wanted to believe him. I also noticed the contract beside him still named Ethan as majority voting shareholder. I slid it back across the table. "If we're partners," I said, "we each bring what we value most. You bring capital, I bring vision. 50-50 or nothing." Uncle Richard hesitated, then nodded. I'll talk to the boys. But Ethan had other plans. He barged in, face red. 50-50? You have one resort. We have liquidity, networks. I raised a hand. And I have a brand. A community. Ask the guests posting rave reviews. Ask the staff whose loyalty can't be bought. Thunder cracked overhead, as if punctuation. Ethan's mouth twitched. He pocketed the contract. We'll regroup. He didn't slam the door. Montclairs don't slam. But his silence thundered louder than the storm. The next 48 hours blurred into wind warnings and power flickers. Guests huddled in lantern-lit lounges while staff secured outdoor furniture. Amid the chaos, a maintenance alert pinged my phone. Generator room, unauthorized access. I sprinted through rain-slick corridors. The generator shed's lock lay smashed. Inside, wires dangled like wounded vines, fuel lines sliced. If the storm took out the main grid, the resort would black out. Guests stranded, food spoiling, emergency systems dead. My pulse hammered. Only a handful of people knew that access code. Staff, trusted. Family, present. I dialed security. Checked the cameras between midnight and 2. Minutes later, grainy footage. A figure in a resort poncho, hood up, but posture unmistakable. Ethan. He clipped the fuel line, looked straight into the lens, and walked out. Lightning flared, matching the burn in my chest. Sabotage to lower my leverage before negotiations. Proof that old patterns wore new suits. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've ever felt underestimated, because sometimes the people underestimating you underestimate how prepared you really are. The storms I passed at noon, sky bruised but clearing. I gathered every department head in the ballroom. First, thank you for keeping our guests safe, I said, voice steady. Second, we had an internal breach. I'm handling it. Eyes widened, but no one asked. They trusted me. That was my true capital. I called a lawyer, forwarded the footage, documented everything. Then I texted Ethan. Meet me on the pier. 5 minutes. Come alone. He arrived dripping seawater, face stormy. Jake, what's? I played the footage on my phone. Raindrops pattered between us. You jeopardized 120 guests, I said, throat tight. Not a business play, Ethan, a criminal act. His jaw clenched. I misjudged. Trevor pushed. I don't care. You have 1 hour to leave the island. The offer is rescinded. And if I find any trace of tampering again, the footage goes to the authorities. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not of consequence, but of losing face. He nodded, turned, and trudged back through wet sand. That night, generator humming again, the staff invited me to a potluck in the employee mess hall. Maya set out jerk chicken. Luis, the groundskeeper, brought plantains. Pastry chef Nari baked a rum cake that smelled like redemption. We ate under fluorescent lights, thunder rumbling softly outside. Laughter slipped between bites. Real, unself-conscious laughter. At one point, Luis raised a soda can. To Jake, El Jeef, and to the family we choose. They clinked cans. Warmth flooded my chest, washing away the storm's residue. In that moment, I realized I'd already formed my board of directors. People invested in kindness, not stock options. If this story moved you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear that family is built, not inherited. A month later, a thick envelope arrived, Grandpa Montclair's handwriting. Hands shaking, I opened it. My dear Jacob, age strips arrogance. Your grandmother used to say, see people for what they do when no one is watching. I watched you run that resort with humility. I watched my other grandson sabotage it out of fear. I've amended my will. You will receive the coastal cottage. Yes, the one where we fished when you were 7. It's yours to keep or sell, but I hope you restore it. Maybe hold future reunions there, led by someone who knows what belonging feels like. Forgive an old man for learning late. Proud of you, son. Grandpa. Tears blurred the words. I remembered that cottage. Chipped blue shutters, rope swing, the pier where I snagged my first marlin. A place I'd felt seen, however briefly. Over the next seasons, I juggled resort expansions, eco cabins powered by solar, a marine conservation partnership, while renovating the cottage. Mom helped repaint shutters, humming Sinatra. Uncle Richard sent vintage fishing rods. Even Trevor visited, quiet, sober, helping sand floorboards. Ethan, serving community service for vandalism at a stateside shelter, wrote a stiff letter of apology. I accepted it, cautiously. During one sunset break, Mom and I sat on the new porch, cicadas chirping. "Proud of you," she whispered. "I'm still learning," I said. She squeezed my hand. "That's what makes you different." A gull cried overhead, like punctuation on the horizon. 1 year after the fateful gathering, we hosted a second reunion, this time formally invited by me, at Arbor Reef, not Sea Glass. No hierarchy ballroom, no yacht charters, just bonfires, paddleboards, and long dinners where conversation lingered on journeys, not resumes. On the final night, I led everyone to the beach. Tiki torches flickered. The staff, my chosen family, joined us. I thanked them publicly, gifting scholarships to employees' children, funded by last quarter's profits. Ethan, newly humbled, approached with hands in pockets. "Jake, can we talk?" We walked the tide line. He kicked sand. "I was stupid. I saw your success as a threat. I'm in counseling now." I nodded. "I accept the apology. Trust will take time." He blew out a breath. "Time I'm willing to earn." The waves foamed white under moonlight. Maybe some bridges aren't rebuilt in a day, but in careful planks of shared vulnerability. Today, as I record this final chapter from the cottage porch, cicadas singing back up, I see two worlds merging, blood family learning humility, chosen family honored daily, and me, the once invisible nephew, standing at the intersection holding a lantern. If you've stayed through every swell and storm of this story, thank you. Your presence proves that belonging can be forged from raw honesty and patient courage. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from if this felt familiar, and share how you turned exclusion into empowerment. The sun dips, painting the lagoon gold. Somewhere behind me, staff set tables for another wedding. Two brides who chose Arbor Reef because it feels like a place where love rewrites old stories. Exactly. So here's to every overlooked cousin, every underestimated dreamer. Build your reef, tend it with stubborn hope, and one day the very currents that tried to pull you under will carry others to your shore.